So often we think that we'll connect with people if we're interesting. But the truth is we connect with people when we choose to be interested. The world's so divided.
Yeah.
And it's because I think people stop asking questions.
Yeah.
And stop being curious. The easiest way to love someone is go, I want to know what it's like for you. Period.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Chasing Elephants, the Chasing Elephants podcast. And as you guys know, I have the joy, the privilege, the honor of having a cool conversation with many of my friends. What I love about doing podcasts and podcast world is that, I get to introduce, as Dr. J would always say, he always talks about how the best thing a friend can do for a friend is introduce his friend to his friends, and so I get the chance to do that. And this episode is no different because this conversation is with a dear, dear friend of mine who, for many of you, if you've been at Youth Pastor Summit, if you've been to Lift Tour, if you've been to any of our SLU, any other SLU events, I promise you have seen this gentle giant on the stage, whether he is, guessing something that you're thinking, or rather he is preaching God's word, or now he is authoring books and sharing them. He is just a gift to the body of Christ. And that's none other than my friend, pastor, and now author, Drew Worsham. Drew, what's going on, brother?
Oh, man. Thank you so much for letting me crash the party.
Well, the truth of the matter is we're big fans of your wife, Jane. And so shout out to Jane. And so...
Hey, listen, I am so aware that the vast majority, and this is not I'm not trying to be funny, like most events that call me, the first thing is Jane coming?
Yeah, man.
And if she can't, we'll look at a different.
Yeah.
I mean, way cool.
Yeah, she has to say, hey, I can't make it, but it's okay if Drew goes. And so
she's way cooler. People just want to hang out with her. That's fine, and I get invited.
Yes,
totally.
Well, bro, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And Drew, you've been a part of our tribe and organization orbit of SLU for years. But for those who don't know you, why don't you just tell our Chasing Elephants audience a little bit about you and your family? I know you guys are in San Antonio. Just what you're doing right now.
Yeah. So like just said, we live in San Antonio. I live there with my wife, Jane. We've been married for 11 years.
Nice.
And we got 2 kiddos. We got a 6-year-old little girl named Tilly and a 4-year-old or almost 4-year-old little boy named Lyndon. And
almost 4.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
It's moving so fast.
Yeah.
And so, and for the past, 20 years, been a church planter and pastor, and have had opportunities of getting to travel and do the touring performer, magnetic illusions, mentalism side of things, and travel and speak. And that's how, we met, it's well over 10 years.
Yeah, it's been well over 10 years.
15 years ago. And that's like, and then, just wrote my first book, and it's out in a couple of weeks. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk about right there, because we're going to have a full conversation on the book. Because, man, first, we are super proud of you, bro. Like, I know this was a labor of love. I know that you put, heart and soul into it, an incredible project. And so, man, Brent and I, just as we were talking about, man, topics and resources we wanted to highlight, your book was top of the list. And so I don't want to steal the thunder, but I want you to tell its title, the premise of the book, what was the thought process, and then I got a couple questions about it.
All right, yeah. So the book is called The Magic of Curiosity. And what I noticed is over the last 20 years, with this church planting, it's my own personal growth.
Yeah.
But that's emotional, spiritual, or whatever level. My relationship, my marriage, my leadership, my kids, the way that I stepped on stage, and the creativity and the innovation that kind of happened there.
Yeah.
And I found out that whether that was with the magic or with teaching, preaching, and storytelling, that the common thread through all of this of my life was just the power of curiosity.
Yeah.
And so, that was kind of the the thrust behind the book was going, man, can we reawaken this sense of awe and wonder in every area of our life?
I love that. And so in the book, Drew, I want to, 'cause just want to get into it because it's so good. And I've had the privilege and honor of hearing you in our Youth Pastor Summit space really kind of speak on it and expound upon it. Incredible talk. But you talk about curiosity being magic, in the book. Like, what do you mean by that? Because I mean, when I hear curiosity, I don't hear magic. I don't see a card trick. When I think about curiosity, I guess, and maybe I'm not thinking about it the right way. But what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think so. Curiosity, when I say it's magical, is that I think it really does have the ability to take the ordinary moments of life and make them extraordinary. I think curiosity, and we've had, oh my gosh, Jeff, so many conversations where I think most people don't want to step into them.
Yeah.
Because maybe fear of being curious.
Curiosity.
It's allowing us to talk about things that are sensitive, things that, from our culture differences, and it helps us understand and to connect.
Yeah.
So curiosity has the ability to take the distance and to close the gap. And then also the magical component of like, it is, I believe, the key ingredient to creativity, not just in what you produce, but how you live your life.
Yeah. And Drew, so for many adults, when we think about adults and the whole sense of curiosity and magic and everything, why do you think adults lose their sense of curiosity?
Yeah.
And what do we do about that? Like, because I imagine for some of our listeners who are either watching or listening, they're hearing that and they're like, okay, I'm wanting to unpack this, but maybe my own heart, I don't have that awe and wonder, that sense of curiosity. And so why do you think adult leaders, or even, just even some young adult leaders, like lose that sense of curiosity?
Yeah. So I live with a 4-year-old, a little boy. And one of the things I've noticed is, and there's a lot of science to back this up. So it's not just my, gosh, you got boys. Like, if you can rewind to when they were 4.
Oh my.
Science says that the average 4-year-old asks 300 questions a day. And I think that there's this innate sense of just curiosity that like we're born with. We're born little discoverers, little explorers and detectives. And then, that same 4-year-old, by the time they get to middle school or like around 13, the number of questions, the average drops to about 0.
Wow. From 4 to 13.
Yeah. Wow. And I think a lot of it, not everyone, but for the majority. And I think Kip Thorne, who is, he was the inspiration for the Christopher Nolan movement.
Okay.
Christopher Nolan movie, Interstellar.
Okay.
And so he's this like theoretical physicist. And he said that we're all born curious about the universe. And if we've lost it, it's because it's been beaten out of us.
Wow.
And so in the book, I talk about how I think the 4 main reasons are, one of the main is fear. Like I think we're fear of, asking questions and being seen as silly or incompetent or uneducated. And so we had just this, or even scared of success. Yeah. Like we learned to play it safe, to kind of run in our lane. Yeah. And we kind of just stopped being curious. Another reason is technology. We all have these devices that we carry in our phone that are, they promise, like the promises they make is that there's no need for mystery in your life. Everything is a Google search away from being explained and wonder loss. And so I think because of that, which is interesting, it's the same promise that a tree in a garden made, which is just interesting to kind of point out. But I think because of that, like we don't get caught up in mystery or curiosity more. We look for like quick solutions. Yes. And or it's our environment. Sometimes it's our parents. Unknowingly, or a teacher that would, say things like, you ask too many questions, or you're too curious. You just stop. File in. And so, it's just, there's a lot of other reasons, but those are the main ones.
It's funny you say that. It's like basically it's like almost like the access to Alexa has taken away our ability to have deep a deep sense of curiosity, right?
Oh,
Or
gosh, yeah.
to our Google search, and even, I mean, you think about this from a different perspective. I remember growing up and, my math teachers, many of my math teachers growing up wouldn't let us use calculators, because they would never wanted us to just, for like simple,
Yeah.
adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Like it was, no, 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 no. I want you. I remember several of my teachers, especially, probably middle school age, that several of my teachers would not let us use calculators until I got to geometry, or pre-algebra and geometry. Then we could use calculators. But before that, many of my teachers wouldn't, and I don't know if it was just the school system I was in, the teachers I just had in a row or whatever, but I remember Mr. Brown, actually his name was Charlie Brown, and as it really, yes, it was Charlie Brown, and Mr. Brown, he was my math teacher in 6th grade. And I remember him talking about, how calculators will damage, the brain. And, he was like, that's stupid, and but he was an older gentleman and he did not believe, for simple level. Now he would say for simple level math that you should use the calculator because you become lazy in that. And so, and I think about that, Drew, even now, like I'm grateful for that because, you can kind of add, subtract, multiply, divide, to a certain degree, certain numbers.
Think about it.
But I also remember a season where I stopped taking Mr. Brown's advice and I started depending on calculators.
Yeah.
And I found myself, because it was quick and easy to kind of, the larger the equation, the more, brain power I have to use to try to kind of carry the one and, multiply this by this, And so when I say all that to say that I think that because of the access that we have to information so quickly, it is taking away our ability to learn, to think critically about things, or critical thinking. And to your point on the awe and wonder, man, like the curiosity, why do I need curiosity? I could just ask whoever, Google, Alexa, Siri, whomever, I can ask them and they can give it to me, because we're not trying to deepen our critical thinking. We're trying to get to the answer quickly. I love the concept of the curiosity and bringing us back to the importance of curiosity, because we live in a culture that has so diminished the need for curiosity and critical thinking.
Yeah.
And you even said this, I love it. You said in the book, you say that curiosity can actually deepen relationships.
Yeah.
So how exactly does that work? If you're talking about not only just deepening critical thinking, our ability to really kind of engage, ask more questions, but when you talk about relationships, what does that mean?
Well, okay. I think we all have relationships, and I think about your wife.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that,
who asks a lot of questions.
does she? Did? Yes.
Oh my gosh, my wife asks a lot of
That
questions.
says a lot about her.
Yeah.
I already knew she was amazing.
Yes,
but now
she does. I always tell my wife, this is a side note, I said, my kids know this too. It's like, growing up, our kids would say, man, Mom, it feels like we're on the witness stand whenever you're asking us something, because she just asks a lot of questions.
I think back, okay, wait, that's my wife, your wife, that first date. And the amount of curiosity, it's like, and you can touch it. Like it's so thick. Like every question, like you're hanging on from your favorite color.
Right.
We could dream vacation, and then the questions get deeper. And it's like, how many kids you want to have? But those, but then you even leave the date and you're just, I just want to text or call, and I want to ask you more questions. And so,
that's so good.
And that's what builds the relationship. And then if you're not careful, you fast forward, you get into the marriage 5, 10, 15 years. And when the curiosity kind of dwindles, typically you start to hear things like, we just grew apart. We just, we became different.
Culture,
But we all change. Like our spouses, I think it was Tim Keller who said, he was married to 4 or 5 different women. All named Kathy. But she changed so much. And the secret, I think it was the meaning of marriage, is learning to love the stranger you wake up next to. And I think that's impossible if you're not curious about who they are and who they're becoming. And so we see that in marriage. We see it with our kids, like even in leadership. Like I think we think about impact. I talk about it in the sense of like so often we think that we'll connect people with people if we're interesting. But the truth is we connect with people when we choose to be interested.
Wow.
And so, and it's, you see this, it's like, oh, well, let me tell you my opinion. Like versus go, Jeff, like, how do you see this?
Yes.
How does this shape your world?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, take like right now, social media, politics, and we've had lots of conversations with Brian and with Brent, like the world's so divided.
Yeah.
And it's because I think people stop asking questions.
Yeah.
They stop being curious of going like, okay, I watched 3 videos on TikTok. I think I understand it all versus going, Jeff, tell me about your perspective.
Yeah.
Tell me like what that's like for you
Yeah.
as a Black man in America to experience that, or what that was like for you as, and it could be anything, as an athlete or as a person that lives in Orlando versus Texas. Like we come to it like with different perspectives. And I think the easiest way to love someone is go, I want to know what it's like for you. Period.
Yeah, man, that's so good, Drew, because we are not in a world that cares to engage to that level like that, you know, and because it is more about I want you to be more on my side and have my perspective, and so the conversation is one-sided. And we've got to a place where we don't appreciate differences, or we don't try to lean in a little bit more to get a little bit of understanding. We'll take things that are said or perceived positions on things at face value, and then we draw a whole bunch of conclusions instead of going deeper and asking more questions. And so I love that idea and that concept of like, man, you know, curiosity can deepen relationships, not just our relationship with our spouse, but a relationship with friends or a relationship with people who are even different than us, who come from different backgrounds, they're part of different denominations. They're on different socioeconomic levels. They're on different sides of the political aisle, you know. I cannot tell you the countless numbers of conversations that I've had that I have appreciated and I've learned from just having a very eclectic group of friends, but then a desire and willingness to ask deep, intentional questions.
What's so cool is like, you know, one, that's just great for friendships and marriage, like, period.
Yes,
It's so good. Like, but even to take it in like the very, like, we'll call it hostile, like the tense, you know, place, like whether it's, you know, the conversations about sexuality or gender, like, man, like, so my gym, the coach and the owner, she's female, she's a lesbian, and she's from South Africa, and she's amazing. And she moved here to actually help start a church in San Antonio.
Oh, wow.
Live this, you know, double lifestyle, and then got exposed, and the church kind of gave her an ultimatum. And she chose to step off staff, ended up getting married to this woman, and started a CrossFit gym. And I met her, and she just kind of started slowly over time sharing the story. And I remember after a class one day, she was just sharing. And what's so crazy is curiosity allows you to step into this conversation. And 2 things. I don't compromise my beliefs.
That's good. Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't feel like I have to like share those instantly.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Very much.
Like I can just ask her, tell me, because what has that journey been like for you?
Yeah.
Was that painful?
Yeah.
Like when the church kind of turned their back on you. Like, where's your faith now? How do you reckon? Like, and I just get to like love her, like genuinely be curious. And not feel like I have to go, well, let me tell you my opinion. Because here's what I will promise you. She already knows my opinion. She already knows it.
Yeah.
And she told me that later. She's like, I already like looked you up on Instagram. I already like saw that you're past, like, she's like, I could guarantee, like, I know exactly where you landed.
Wow.
I didn't need to share that. So the fact that I ask questions, love her, you know, check in on her, spoke volume. So really it wasn't that I did a lot. I just was curious about her.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? But I never compromised,
Who you were.
my beliefs.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, Drew. And I think in the art of communication, that is a golden nugget that I think we've lost. We've lost that ability to see the least in the loss because we're trying so much to be heard and right more so than being salt and light. And what I mean, like that.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, like that's what that is. I
down.
mean, we're just trying to be heard and right, and we forget we're called to be salt and light. Like that's kind of where we've become. But I love the fact it's not. Well, that church was wrong for kicking you out for living that lifestyle, and I mean, that's not your perspective. It's like, hey, you know what? You saw her as a human being,
Yeah.
and an opportunity to allow your witness to come forth in another perspective. Like, I grew up, where Miss Caldwell, she had an old El Camino, right? And I'm dating myself, and we would always go out and we had what we call our outreach weekends, and it was, to me, no different than Jehovah's Witness coming on Sunday or Saturday to you knocking on your door. When they would come knocking on the door, man, we would get down. My mom was like, either my mom was telling us don't answer the door, or my mom would go to the door. She would just begin to just witness. Oops, so and they be like, so I don't know why in our neighborhood, the Jehovah's Witness, they just don't go that way. But I remember what we would do at our church as we had these Roman road cars.
Yeah.
And like they were like these door knockers. And so so Miss Cardwell would have some of the kids and people, we'd be in the back of her El Camino. We go from door to door and knock, and talk about, share our faith, which is good.
Yeah.
But I remember we had this one deacon. I won't name his name, I know he's gone. I don't know if it's been years, so I don't know if he's gone to be with the Lord or not. But he was like rough. I just remember he had this kind of rough demeanor, and I'm paraphrasing when I say this. Like he was like, hey, you know Jesus? No, I don't. Why not? Do you know? It's either two places you're going, either heaven or hell. And do you want to burn? And I remember as a young kid watching the expression of people going from opening their door like, hey, to like, oh, because of the way that it was very dogmatic. It was, I mean, I don't think people were opposed to hearing the gospel or hearing this deacon share his faith and invite them to church and give them the Roman road card. But I think the way that he antagonized the conversation, right? For those who weren't believers, who were like, I mean, it was I remember the hellfire and brimstone type of outreach. And I just remember thinking to myself, man, even as a young kid, I remember thinking, I don't know if that's a good idea, and that did, because a lot of the people that he would come off that way to, I mean, the people were like, oh man, like, and so I say that to say that, we talk about this gym owner, the fact that you were just trying to say, hey, let me ask a little bit of question, let me kind of get to understand your story, as I'm hoping you want to hear about the gospel story, and I think that's so good, man, and I love the whole idea and premise of that. And so Drew, okay, so if someone was feeling stuck or disconnected, they're like, okay, we're talking about curiosity, you're talking about asking questions, you talk about people losing their wonder, like, and they're feeling stuck. From a practical standpoint, like, where do I start in trying to gain my sense of curiosity?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I think, so I think about Jesus, and because we're on but mostly I think believers that listen, like us, like, but Jesus invites us to, in Mark 9, that story of, Jesus and the disciples are passing through the village, and these families bring their kids to Jesus, and whether it's they want a healing or they want blessing, whatever, and the disciples, stop the kids. They stop the family, and they're like, whoa, Jesus is super busy.
Yeah.
Like, we've got a really packed agenda, and he's like a rising star.
Yeah.
He doesn't have time for the kids. And Jesus rebukes him, and he's like, hey, no, let the kids come to me, and unless, you have this like childlike faith,
Yeah.
you're going to miss out on the presence of God that's right in front of us on the daily.
Yeah.
The kingdom of God is what the language he uses. And I think a big piece of that is like, okay, how do we, because I think I misunderstood that when I first started following Jesus. It's like, that's a naive faith.
Yeah.
It's a blind faith.
Yeah.
Kids just, trust, willy-nilly. And it's like, no.
Right.
Like, neither of my kids have ever just been like, well, Dad said, we just,
Right.
Like they asked, they want to follow. But why? And so there's that curiosity, that childlike wonder and awe. So how do we get back to that? And I think, like, I don't know. I actually do know. But in a big picture, as I'm processing this, like even my own self would go like, what is it? How do we not be like childish, but how can we become more childlike?
Yeah.
And I think practically, I think like we have to learn to like change our perspective. Okay. And this is in every area of your life. And so it's like my personal growth, like going, okay, there's like that, I don't know who said it originally, but there's either like tomorrow is either day one or it's just one day. And so you have that mindset of going, okay, like I want to get healthy physically. Well, one day, or no, tomorrow's day one. Yeah, we're starting it. And I'm just going to take steps, or I'm going to call the counselor, or, I'm going to get the gym membership, or I'm going to set aside a time to be with the Lord. Like that change of perspective, or I will eventually.
Yeah.
That never happened.
No, this is day one.
Changing perspective here of going like, okay, what is it like for you? Even in this room, like I have the curiosity of going, I wonder what it's like for Jeff to sit across the space from me. Like, what is he processing? What is he thinking? How does he feel? What's it like for my spouse? I feel like I'm killing it.
Yeah.
What if Jane's like,
right.
I don't think you're killing it. So they go like, or my kids.
Yeah.
I know that I'm traveling so that I can make money, so I can pay for the bills. That's the best way I could love my kids.
Yeah.
But if Tilly just thinks that Daddy's gone a lot,
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter.
Right.
Why? So it's that, okay, change my perspective creatively.
Yeah.
To change and go, wait, what if we did this from a different angle? What if we try to go, if we tell this story, like even when we share the gospel, maybe I could change it. Not change the gospel,
Right.
but change the language that I use to tell that so it's more creative, or that it resonates more with the students today or my neighbors. So change perspective, ask bigger, better questions. I think I tell people that I coach and pour into to go like, what if you could step into every conversation and go, I want to ask more questions than talk, like how the length of time I talk.
Yeah.
And so to ask bigger questions of myself, like why do I feel that way? Why am I wrestling with that? Or ask questions of you, not be scared. And then creatively, what if, like, I think the typical question is, what if this fails? We go, what if you ask, what if it works?
Yeah.
It's successful. And what if we do this? So asking bigger questions. And then the third thing is take risk or try something new. And that could be as simple as building that curiosity. Like next time you go to your favorite restaurant, order something that you wouldn't normally order.
Yeah.
Or Jeff, you've been around me long enough. Yeah, there's not a coffee shop that I go to, or a restaurant. I'm sorry,
I love it.
And I'm gonna go, hey, we're here in this city. I've never been to this coffee shop. I'm in my one time.
Yeah.
What's the thing you're proud of?
Yeah.
I want to try that. And so take little risk.
I love it.
In every area.
I love that. And yes, you are. I do know. You will go. I mean, we're in the city. You got to try the coffee.
What's the thing?
Yeah, what's the thing, And so I love that so much, Drew. Okay, so people, and we'll have ways to get the book in our show notes, but if people are reading, they go and they pick up The Magic of Curiosity. What's that one thing that you hope that they will glean from this particular project?
Yeah, that that you don't have to have all the answers to experience the life that you desire. And I think the life that Jesus offers, that wonder and awe and excitement, all that joy even, can come from just the curious heart. And there's so much. We could talk about it another day, but I think the whole Bible is a giant invitation to be curious.
Yeah, I love that. Well, brother, congratulations, and I'm so proud of you. We are so proud of you, man, and thank you for taking time to hang out with our Chasing Elephants audience. How can people follow you, Drew? And
so everything's just connected to my name, which is luckily it's unique to Drew Worsham, like worship with an AM. And so whether that's .com or on social media platform, would love, please reach out, ask questions. I would love to share the journey.
Yeah, and listen, you need to have this brother in to come and speak at your church or any events. He is just a gem, and so grateful for him. And so, as always, ladies and gentlemen, we want to make sure do a couple things. One, make sure you're following us. If you should be. That's kind of weird, but follow us at SLU Lead. Follow us, again, that's at SLU Lead. You can follow me at I am Jeff Wallace, and my brother Brent at Brent A. Crow. And as always, as I said every episode, make sure you're being intentional every day of your life, trying to be the best version of yourself. Thank you for your time. We can't wait to talk to you again. Peace.